Here I am in Paris still. I'm sitting here with Bernard Paes, who is an
Yes.
entrepreneur and creative director. Hi, Bernard.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you for accepting this and being so willing.
It's my pleasure.
So you've been working, you're a citizen of the world.
I've been everywhere.
You've been everywhere as
But
well.
yeah, I'm an Indian, born in Kuwait. I am an Indian who lived more of my life in Dubai. I had a business, a couple of businesses in Dubai. And now I'm a Portuguese citizen living in France. So yeah, you can say I'm well, I consider myself a citizen of the world. I've traveled enough, so yeah.
And you've been working for most of your life. You've been working in art direction, in creative direction,
Yes,
in advertising. You had your own advertising company.
Yeah.
Now you work in packaging for perfumes.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, luxury perfume packaging.
And we were just discussing earlier about marketing.
Oh,
Because you know that my thing is authenticity, right?
Yeah.
Authentic storytelling. And we were just discussing how, from my point of view, marketing is far away from authenticity because it kind of pretends there's something there that people want to buy, and is that something that it's pretended that they feel attracted to. What are your views on this?
okay. There are two sides to it. The way I look at it is I give equal bias to both, because I've seen and done both sides of it. You try and oversell in marketing, yes, but you also try and oversell yourself sometimes. So, there is a certain amount of makeup, as you would say, to beautify yourself in front of people, or to beautify a product in front of people, because the truth is all, if I did a photograph of a simple can of a soft drink, I would have to retouch that can to make it presentable, and that's exactly what advertising is it would over glorify a product just to make it presentable. Now, how you could interpret it in two ways. Are they doing it specially to make it look better than it really is, or they're making a presentation of their product, so it's like that. In the same, I find the same thing in the human self, and also in marketing,
But isn't that one of the conditions of the human mind, that we want to look good?
It is.
And isn't ugliness somehow raw and attractive? Just because it's raw, because it's like it doesn't have any makeup on. It's like a child. Like a child that they don't pretend to be anything, they just are.
Yes.
Like animals, you're a big animal lover, right?
Yeah.
You're like dog lover.
I'm a creature lover.
So dogs don't. You're a creature lover, right? You were talking about snakes earlier.
I love any of God's creatures. Yeah.
So, I think humans are the only ones that overthink how they look and they want to look good. Animals don't care about that, and they're beautiful, aren't they?
It's really true. And they don't wear clothes, for example. They don't hide anything. Yeah.
Yet when we want to sell something like whatever, a pet, I know your daughter, is that right? She's working on grooming for dogs right now?
Yes, yeah. A behaviorist. That's what she's aiming to be, and yeah.
And so if we want to, for example, sell, I'm just crossing things here, right? But if we want to sell
Cross away.
a dog,
Yeah.
we have to just make him look good. We have maybe retouch him a bit with Photoshop, right? The lighting is good, that everything just looks perfect.
Yeah.
But why is that? If we know that dog is only perfect in an image, and when we get it, he's perfect in his own way, but he's raw. He's ugly as well in his own way, and we love him for that.
I've just had a thought. I think it's a matter of evolution of the person. For example, there would be, in my life particularly, I can only speak for myself, there was a time when I was in the advertising business where image was a big part of what I had to be.
Yeah.
It is not because I loved it, Of course, when I was, living in the world of brands and big brands and all, yeah, you enjoy it. But of course, it costs you a lot of money, and that takes away from your bottom line, basically. But without that image, you wouldn't be treated as an equal with another agency that was, had suits, as they call them, well-dressed Armani cut suits and things like that, So there is a certain amount of image that we have been accustomed to as humans.
Yeah.
And yes, part of it has got to be the advertising and marketing, because we know how much we retouch in the advertising world. So from that point of view, yes, marketing does present things, but in a lot more acceptable way, I think, because everybody cannot understand why this, for example, this dog or this lady has hair that's covering her eyes and not, every strand of hair is not in the right place. People cannot understand that. And I think, coming back to what I realize now, is there's a time in your life, like evolution, where you can accept it after a while. Like most people, I think, they've seen life, they've been through that image phase, which is basically adulthood.
Yeah.
And to go to an office, you have to be well dressed. Yeah. To present in a presentation, to make a presentation, you have to be well dressed, and it goes on. But then you kind of are coming towards retirement, or you're an entrepreneur, where you don't
care what others think of you.
You don't care, yeah. And that's, I think, it's an important part of the whole evolution process. So yes, marketing does make things look more beautiful, for example, but I think it's necessary to the consumer.
Okay.
So,
and it has to do something with credibility as well, right? If you look good, you look more credible to your potential clients.
Exactly. You're taken more seriously,
You're taken seriously.
It's unfortunate, but it's the way of the world.
What do you think social media is doing to that nowadays? Because we see that social media...
I like social media.
You like social media?
Because personally, I must confess, I don't buy into any of it yet.
Okay.
Because I signed off Facebook about 6 or 8 years back, because it was just getting too much for me. People posting their pictures, and it was basically just, for me, it was just trying to scream their own selves,
Yeah.
and what's happening in their lives, and I really don't care what you're eating, in which restaurant.
A big facade. They were doing the big marketing for themselves. There was this saying when I started using Twitter a few years ago, that everybody used to tweet like a rock star. I just hated it. It's like, who's going to read my tweet? Who's going to be interested in what I had for breakfast this morning? No, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
We're tweeting and we're Facebooking and we're Instagramming like rock stars.
But that again is a lot of the time it's people who are trying to project a different image than what they are, And that's, again, it's up to the individual, Me, I signed off because for me it was just too much of me, and I got tired of posting pictures of myself and my family, and who wants to see, okay, I know to a certain extent, you have a new baby, but you don't have to post pictures every, twice a day or 10 times a day in some cases. So it was a bit too much, and media for me is, of course, it's overkill, after a while. You've got Facebook, you've got Twitter, you've got Instagram. Now, how much do you participate, Then you've got the newspapers, then you've got television, then you've got radio and all.
There's these people that they post, they're celebrities that they post in social media like their life 24/7.
For example, I was interested in sailing, and I got the most amount of information, like hardcore, real-life sailing information from a couple that was just sailing with cameras. And you realize, yes, it is not the rosy picture that you imagined. There are storms. You're fighting against nature. You're beaten around, and it's a matter of survival, not sailing after a while,
So, coming from you, an advertisement man, creative director, right? So you have on one hand the classic advertisement industry, and on the other hand you have these YouTubers that just share their experience in YouTube.
Yeah. What
are your thoughts? Where's the future of marketing? Yeah, what's the future of marketing going to?
It would I think it would
Can you
be.
get the crystal ball out and then tell me where it's going?
I wish I could. I'd do things for other sides of my life, other portions of my life. But I don't. I think there will always be a balance between two, because there will always be a young person and there'll always be an old person, and there'll always be different targets and different age groups and different needs. You know, the world at one point will not have the same consumer needs. So there'll always be that.
Okay.
Of course, technology has changed it a lot. Now it's more spontaneous. So I like the spontaneity. I like the rawness, of a subject matter. But at the same time, I realize the importance of having that cleanup,
Okay.
Like I need to have lipstick on when I go into a presentation, or I need to have a coat on, or, because I respect the people I'm going to present to.
Okay.
Or I respect myself because I need to have a right image to the people that I am presenting to, because in all hope that they too are well dressed and well presented, because they take me seriously, and that's the way of the world. But then again, I look at all the billionaires, like the Facebook owners and the Microsofts and all, and they don't really dress up the way we used to dress in the advertising business.
They're Americans anyway. They just
no, but it's
they wear
not.
t-shirts
It's
every
not.
day.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not only that. I think it is also a change in psychology. The human psyche is changing with this new generation and with digital, because you're not in front of the person. So it's about digital.
Yeah.
It's also about the digital age, where you don't really need to be there, where you still make a presentation. And it's like newsreaders. They have their running shorts on, and they have a worsted blazer.
So they're only pretending from waist up.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's the same thing. Yeah.
So you're talking about the environment, about being well dressed. If you go into an environment that expects you
Correct,
to be
yeah.
well dressed, right? I was just remembering this experiment they did as this famous violin player.
Oh yes, I remember that
in the
tube
underground
in London. Yeah.
London, and of course nobody just stopped. Nobody, just maybe some people just gave him a bit of change, right? But it's all about the environment. If that person plays where he usually plays, which is in a big hall,
Yes.
where you have to pay a big price
Yeah.
to see him play, the expectation is totally different, right? So that's the environment.
Like I said, image it does play a big part in
So
the
what is-
consumer psyche.
What is your definition of two words? First, when you mention spontaneity
Natural
and authenticity.
again. I think it's a state. Authenticity is a state of mind, and I think that's what. Again, I think this comes after. You cannot be. You have to evolve, so you cannot be authentic a lot of the time, because the system or society or the moment demands it of you to represent yourself in that way.
Isn't that evil?
I don't think it's evil. I think it's like why does a white man and a black man and why does a poor man and a rich man? It's like these differences.
Okay.
They will be there in society. I like to be presented well, whereas someone else might not be like to be presented well. They're just like that. They might talk badly. They might behave badly in public. They're not worried about their image. That's the way they are. And they expect you to accept them that way. But I cannot do that, because I have to be nice to my fellow human. I have to be dressed because I expect to be seen in a different light, or seen in the light that I really am. I don't overdress. I don't wear jewelry, for example, because I don't want to be seen in that light.
But then, what dress code do you follow? Because we don't have one unified culture in this planet. We have like thousands of cultures, of codes, of ways of following doing things. So then you have to be like a chameleon. If you go to Paris, you have to wear like this. If you go to India, you have to wear like that. If you go to Barcelona, you have to wear like that.
Correct. Yeah.
So
know,
your authenticity is diluted. See my point?
It is diluted to the point where it's acceptable to you. If it's not acceptable to you, I don't expect you to change the way you are. That drastically.
But then I will be banned from certain environments.
But then you have to decide if that environment is really what you need or not.
So there's a price to authenticity.
There is a price to it, yeah. Yeah, I definitely think so. As a customer or a supplier, I would go into a meeting in the advertising business, or even in the perfumery business. I'd go into a meeting and the customer was late. And I would, if it was more than 20 minutes, I would get up and walk away.
You said 15 minutes earlier.
15 to 20 minutes. No, but this is it. Normally it was 15 minutes. But then I said, okay, fine, because then I realized, okay, that's another thing. I realized I could stay longer because I would read a book or write a plan or do some creative, because I always had my agenda with me. So I just, sketch and things like that. So I actually, as I grew older, see, that's another thing. As I grew older, I realized that since I've taken the time to go to someone's place, if they're late, I would rather sit and do some thinking and not just sit and get upset, So there's another way how I evolved to suit my customer, but at the same time take advantage of it.
So I guess age gives you flexibility, right?
Age gives you wisdom.
Wisdom.
Definitely, because I would consider myself a hot-blooded young entrepreneur, and in those days, and I've walked out of meetings. I don't care whether you're the CEO of a huge, of a huge brand, but that's the way I was. And I would tell them straight to their face, if you hired me, it's for my expertise. So don't try and design. I'll do your designs and your communication, and you do what you do, trading.
Would you say there's a pretty Western mindset?
I think yes, it is. Yeah, because the Asian mindset is to be a lot more passive, and in my opinion, it's detrimental to the relationship, because I think in a relationship, any relationship, it has to be honesty and authenticity, of course. But if I tell my client that you're doing this too often and I'm going to stop coming, I lose the job. I lose the project. So it is there is a sacrifice in authenticity. Yeah, there is. And yes, I have sacrificed because of that. Like a typical example is I would refuse to give anybody commission. And this is obviously in business, it's a very common thing. If you are with a brand and I'm doing a product launch for you, you say, okay, Bernard, I'll give you the product launch. The budget is $100,000. Keep 10% aside for me. And I would just flatly say, I would do two things. I said, either you give me the project and you don't get a commission, or I find another client. And so I lost a lot of business like that. And as a young entrepreneur, I don't think it was the right thing to do in retrospect. There could have been another way around it, I've had all thoughts about this.
Where did you get that? Why did you start doing that?
I think I was always like that. I was brutal. I was brutally honest from as far back as I remember. That was me.
Well, where did that come from? Because you went against your culture, right? The environment you were born in.
Well, I was born out of India, but I don't know really. I think because I remember my dad was also a businessman, and he was like me. He would speak his mind no matter who it was, and I think I got that from him. Yeah, I think it was. I think it's in the genes.
Yeah.
My daughter is like that. After a certain while, you realize you have become wiser with age. You have mellowed down. You are more accepting of other people's faults. Things like that. It's quite interesting. But strangely enough, when it comes to your own family, you're a lot more brutal. At least that's the way I feel. Because if it's a stranger, you can get away with not telling them. It doesn't matter because you're not going to meet them again. But when it's your own son or your child or your wife or whatever, or your brother or your sister, you want to, either you feel like you want to make them better people,
Yeah.
but it really doesn't work like that. So yeah, I'm still learning. We're learning till we go to the grave.
I think we are.
Yeah.
So I wanna ask you about going back to media. As you know, I'm a filmmaker. I'm a documentary filmmaker. Though I'm changing that label from filmmaker to storyteller.
Nice.
Because it's
I like that.
it's a broader.
Yeah.
Right. So, from a storytelling point of view,
Yeah.
how do you achieve authenticity? How do you communicate, express authentically through this crystal, this wall that is the medium, whether it is a public speaking or writing or filmmaking or photography
Yeah.
or art?
I think in my opinion, the best, not the best way, but I would deal with it this way. I would be myself and I would make a decision. I had to make a conscious decision to be myself, no matter who the public is or who I'm addressing. And that's how I would achieve my sense of authenticity. And that's how I normally am anyway, I don't change because of a situation. I try as much as possible to let the situation revolve the way I want it to,
But you accommodate your language to the situation. Like earlier, for example, when I was very blunt when we were having brunch before the recording of the interview. I was very blunt, like, I have a problem with marketing. I have this resistance with marketing because it's like pretending, it's not authentic, it's like sells you something and then under delivers, right? And I noticed you were like toning down, right, and managing your language. So is that a part of being authentic?
It is being authentic because you can't change what's inside, for example, but you can change what's outside. And that's what most of marketing is. It's what is the outside world, what's the preconception of the outside world. And you want the outside world to understand you, because in marketing, there's in advertising, there's a phrase, you've got 2 seconds to catch your consumer. So if you don't present it in the way that the consumer is already accustomed to, then you straight away kind of have a disadvantage. So it's not a matter of being authentic or not, because some advertising or marketing is really misleading, really truly misleading, and that's done by people who really don't have anything to sell, or they're just trying to make it up, or it's a joke, But you do have to adapt to your customer and your customer's expectations if you're in the real sense of the word marketing, because you have to, and marketing is basically giving giving your consumer or your customer what they want.
So if you're in business of persuasion, you can always choose to persuade from a place of integrity.
Of course, yeah. And that's the way it should be.
And actually,
you can't.
That's what you were sharing with me earlier, right? That when we were living for 33 years in Dubai, right?
Yeah.
And you had this big advertising agency that you had clients, international clients, big companies, big brands that you were promoting, and now you're actually working with the people that create the perfumes. So it's not like you're selling your soul, right? It's not like you're selling your services without caring if that promise is there to be delivered. Now the promise is there, it's going to be delivered because the products you are advertising or you're creating package for are good.
Yes. The funny thing is, the reason why I left advertising was because I was disenchanted by not the, not the industry itself. It was where I was and how it was being conducted, which was against my ethics. Because, for example, I was dealing with the marketing director of a big brand, a pharmaceutical brand, for example.
Oh, pharmaceuticals.
And I know that the marketing managers, they will leave in 1 or 2 years for a better salary. So they are not committed to the brand at all. On the other hand, with my working ethics, I am committed to a brand for the rest of my life. Like, for example, I will never drink Pepsi. Never. You know what I mean?
Because you've advertised for Coca-Cola.
Because I've handled Coca-Cola for 10 years, in the advertising agency. But I still don't, even today, although I'm not an advertising man, I don't drink Pepsi. I don't drink any other cola, And I'll go to a fast food chain, if I do fast food at all, I'll go to a fast food chain that has Coke. So it's like that. But the customer, my customers don't understand that, So it's...
Well, are you talking about values in the end, right? And following your values and not...
Your own values, yeah.
Exactly, and not betraying your own values, right?
Exactly,
That's what integrity is, right?
Yeah.
And the way I understand integrity is sticking to your values.
True. And this is why I left the advertising business, because for me, I had to pitch to the same client, to my same customer, the pharmacist or the pharmaceutical company, every 2 years. And that was ridiculous, because the marketing manager goes, the new marketing manager comes, he comes in with his own views, and I have to convince him that I'm the right company for him all over again. After working with the brand for 2 years, So when I had an opportunity to work in the perfume business, in packaging, I realized that I'm dealing with the grandfather, the son, the grandson, and they left me to do what I do, and they would just do what they do, trading, and that was fulfilling, from not as much as a monetary point of view in the advertising. Of course, advertising, there was a lot more money, but what I wanted was fulfillment of just work, creativity, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and personal relationships as well, right?
And a personal relationship. Like today, we are like an extended family, So this is what, for me, it was, And again, it comes back to being authentic. I even changed my field because I wanted to be authentic, And I wanted fulfillment.
What is the price you had to pay, and would you pay it again?
Yeah, I don't change for anybody. The one thing that I've always stuck with in my life is my ethics and my beliefs. I have never changed them. I may have adapted or adopted in a situation to 1 or 2 people or whatever if they were demanding, but most of the time I ended up with clients who would just let me do what I wanted because that's what I do. And if they didn't accept my honesty, my authenticity and my frankness, then they were not made for me. And I would actually resign the account. So yeah, authenticity does cost you.
We were just talking earlier with your wife, with Jennifer, and she was saying, "Oh, I'm an intuitive one," and you were saying, "Yeah, but I can always tell if I'm talking to somebody I don't connect with. I can always tell there's something wrong." Right?
I've been blessed with that kind of thing. That's what I think. And I have actually given up certain meetings, certain clients, from the first casual meeting, not a business meeting, just a casual meeting. I'll be invited to pitch, and I'll just either decide not to do it, make an excuse, or give a quotation that's unrealistic, just to avoid working with him. And yeah, it has, I've found that I've proved myself right. And I'm the kind of person actually who doesn't have regrets. You know, if I make a decision, I tell the children too. I said, make a decision and stick with it no matter what.
That's taking decisions from your heart, right? It's making,
Exactly.
making choices.
It's not changing your ethics. That's the main thing. You take a decision based on your ethical judgment, and then you just stick with it, and then life becomes really easy because you're not playing games. You know, it's either yes or no, and then when it is a yes, you're chasing it with your life.
It's risky though, right? It's risky. Like
Life is risky.
Life is risky.
I didn't risk, I did not even fathom what would happen to me when I moved to France. I landed up in hospital. When I was in hospital, I realized there are a lot of people who need help, even though they don't ask for it.
Yeah.
So it's very important to be mindful and aware of the people, even your friend circle. You know, you might not, like you said, some friends are not authentic. Like they'll show that they're having a good time at home, but they're coming from broken families or broken relationships, and you need to be aware of this, and then you can offer help. You know, so and this is what I would like to do for, I always broke my life into thirds. You know, so your first third is your studies and your youth. Your second third is your working life and your marriage and you're bringing up your kids. And then your third is giving back all that you've enjoyed over the last 2/3, you know. And that's what we came to France for. That's how we, my wife and myself, wanted to, you know, see the third part of our life spent. My mother actually taught me that I cannot go to sleep without apologizing to the person who I harmed, or going to sleep with any anger.
Yeah.
And this is what I've also transferred to my children now.
Yeah. Yeah, and most of us, I would say, carry our shame, our anger, and our regrets for many
To the
years.
grave.
And some of us to the grave.
Yeah.
So it takes courage to, of course, if you do it on a daily basis, you don't let it grow, right, and accumulate.
Yeah.
So
This is the
but
main
it takes
thing.
Courage. It takes courage, and
I don't think it takes courage. I think it doesn't take courage. It takes humility. It's not courage at all. It's humility. All of us are too wrapped up in projecting an image. Like you said, authenticity. Yeah. We are projecting an image that we are not. You try to be bold, but you're not being bold. You're being cowardice. You're being cowardly. If you, like a simple thing like saying you're sorry, it doesn't take courage. It takes humility. So and once you say sorry, the feeling, you cannot replace it with anything else here. Because sorry is a complete abandonment of your own reservations and your own, you know, whatever. And this again is what I've passed on to the children is you don't go to sleep, you don't go to bed in the night without apologizing to your family who you've hurt today. So you get up in the morning and you've got a brand new slate to start off with.
that's great advice.
Yeah, exactly. That's. I mean, I was brought up that, and I just passed it on.
That's great, and I think that's a great note to end with. So,
Thank you so much.
Thank
you for letting me share.
Well, thank you for accepting my invitation, Bernard Paes,
Always a
entrepreneur
pleasure.
and creative director.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All the best, man. I wish you good luck on your quest.
Thank you.